All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story I want to talk about today, Sergio Oliva Jr. The rare, few and far between physique update from Sergio Oliva Jr. as he prepares for his comeback of sorts. It's been a while since we've seen him on stage. Over a year now. At the Chicago Pro. He's coming back to the 2021 Chicago Pro at the end of July. I believe we're right around 8 weeks out from that show right now. And Sergio Jr. posting a front double bicep pose here. This really stood out to me because I think Sergio, obviously I think he looked really impressive. His upper body to me, in this pose, he looked extremely wide, and that's one of the things I like about Sergio. It's kind of that classic attribute that he kind of shares with his dad, is these super wide lats, making his physique look that much more aesthetic. The V-taper, the victory pose was his dad's pose, and one of the key elements of that pose was the lats. A lot of people thought it was just having big arms, but one of the key parts of making that pose look right is flaring out your lats in that victory pose. So Sergio, I think, looked really impressive in this update. And he says in the caption he weighs 304 pounds this morning. So at 8 weeks out from the show, Sergio Jr. is a 300-plus pounder. Now, I know Sergio is a little bit of a taller guy. I think he's right around 5'11", if I'm not mistaken. And in bodybuilding terms, that's tall for a pro bodybuilder. And when you're talking about a guy as densely muscled as a pro bodybuilder, every inch, you could be talking about like 10 pounds more they're filling out on their frame of just muscle mass, and that's why the weights can be so different. But also I wanted to point out here, I left a comment on this post where I said Chicago Pro is going to be epic. Of course, that's a show he's doing and a lot of other guys are doing. And Sergio responded, I'm just excited for a show where there's more than just two good guys, probably referring to both Cali and even you could make the argument for New York, that could be something he's referring to. And Sergio is certainly at least partially right about that statement because this Chicago Pro lineup is going to be stacked. So we're going to do a little bit of a Chicago Pro preview in this video because we got physique updates from a lot of guys in this lineup. Another one that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. The next story is Charles Griffin. Charles Griffin is also preparing for the Chicago Pro. We haven't seen Charles compete in a while. I want to say it's been almost 2 years since Charles has competed. But Charles posted basically a full physique update because it's a posing video ahead of the Chicago Pro. Charles looking very confident in his physique going into this show. And again, like I said, he's a guy that I think a lot of people are writing off, but he's a very, very competitive bodybuilder. And I think he could surprise a lot of people, especially in a lineup like Chicago. I think this is one of those lineups where anything could happen. I think conditioning is going to be a big factor here. Conditioning is always a big factor. But in a lineup where you've got a top 6 Olympian, who we'll talk about in a second, Akim Williams, conditioning could be a huge factor. A lot of people probably have Akim automatically winning the show because he's the highest placing recent Olympian in that lineup that we know of so far. So a lot of people would like to automatically assume that Akim is the front runner. And I do think he's the front runner for this show. But a lot of people probably will automatically assume Akim is going to win. And that's not necessarily the case. This could be a show that comes down to condition, and you could have a guy sneak in. Even a guy like Charles could beat a guy like Akim if it came down to very contrasting conditioning. So I just want to make sure we keep Charles in that conversation because in this lineup you've got Akim, you've got Sergio, you've got Hunter Labrada, and you've got Charles. So I think you got these big names in here, and a guy like Charles who might not be as well known as some of these guys, he might get overlooked. Don't be surprised when you see Charles Griffin in that first call out at the Chicago Pro. He's going toe to toe with some of these guys, so do not overlook Charles Definition Griffin. Now, next up in the news, we got Akim, the guy we just mentioned, also prepping for the Chicago Pro. He's been posting a lot of physique updates lately. The past couple of weeks, he's posted some pretty impressive stuff on his stories, showing some back shots of the shape that he was in at like over 10 weeks out. Today, posted this training video with his coach, A Strong Spirit, a.k.a. Justin Miller, just kind of showing off some of the hard work that he's putting in for the Chicago Pro. And again, Akim is the highest placing Olympian recently going into this Chicago Pro. He does still need to qualify for the Olympia. So I would say at this point, all the names that are not qualified for the Olympia yet, out of all those names, Akim is probably the best guy from a placing standpoint that is not yet qualified for this year's Mr. Olympia. 6th place at the Olympia was not enough to qualify him for 2021. So that's why I would call him the front runner of this lineup, because he really is probably on paper the best guy that is not currently qualified for this year's Mr. Olympia in men's open bodybuilding. So for me, Chicago is kind of the next big one, like the New York Pro, that I'm really looking forward to. I think this is going to be a really big deal in terms of Olympia qualifications. Who's going to get it, who's not, who's going to get enough points, who's not. It's going to be interesting. And then after that, you've got Tampa, which will be another really big one, I think, because a lot of the guys here I mean, there's only going to be one winner in Chicago, and they got to qualify somehow. I think a lot of them will probably go to Tampa. And now a word from our sponsors over at Labrada Nutrition. Come on. All right, now next up in the news, I want to talk about a guy that I've been really impressed by. Some of the physique updates that I've seen lately are just insane. And I usually don't talk a whole lot about fitness influencers or the fitness YouTube scene. I've been trying to keep it just strictly talking about pro bodybuilding competitions lately. But Brandon Harding, who's on the road to trying to get his pro card, he has been posting some extremely impressive physique updates that I just thought were worth showing, because I think this guy, I think he's going to become a pro, and I think he's going to be a pretty successful one at that. The updates that he's been posting, he's just days out from this show. He looks fantastic. He's bringing the level of conditioning that we like to see, that we talk about here, that we feel is missing from so many shows. The updates that I've seen of him at this point in his prep, he's just so dry, so crisp, so lean. And I'm showing you guys these latest physique updates from, I guess this was exactly 2 days out from his show. It's peak week for him. And I just think he looks phenomenal. And I would be surprised if he doesn't get his pro card very, very soon. He really does look good. Very classic physique. He's a very aesthetic guy. And like I said, the conditioning is what really impressed me, and that's why I'm talking about him in this video, is because I just saw these updates. I think I saw them on the Buys and Tries Instagram page. I see a lot of stuff on there. But he just looks so impressive. The conditioning is just on point. I can't wait to see how he looks in the stage photos, how he looks on stage with the tan and stuff, and once he's carved up and filled out a little bit more. I think he looks fantastic. This is the kind of conditioning we love to see, and it's cool to see him doing it, kind of making that transition from, well, he's always been a competitor, but from influencer to hopefully a serious pro one day. I really think he looks really impressive here, and I wouldn't be talking about him if I didn't. I think the guy looks great, and I'm excited to see what he puts together on stage. Now, the final story that I have for you guys today, Hafthor Bjornsson, Eddie Hall, Larry Wheels. We just talked about this. I think it was the last video we just talked about this, how Larry Wheels in a recent video said he wanted Thor to knock Eddie's head off. And Larry posted this picture, which was created by Tyrannosaurus on Instagram, who is a graphic designer. And I'm actually going to blur part of the picture because it's a bit graphic, and YouTube is pretty sensitive about these kind of things. But it's essentially Hafthor standing there with a Game of Thrones setting behind him, holding Eddie Hall's head, figuratively and literally, referencing the Larry Wheels knock his head off phrase. So the thing was, when I saw Larry post that, or when I saw Larry say that in the video, I thought it was interesting because Larry has collabed with Eddie many times in the past. So for him to be that strongly siding with Hafthor surprised me and made me wonder if there's any beef between Larry Wheels and Eddie Hall. But then Tyrannosaurus created this picture, and Larry reposted it, and so did Thor. Thor posted it on his Instagram as well. And Larry says in the caption, this is his prediction for the match, making no secret about it that he is Team Hafthor. It seems like he might not like Eddie Hall based on this picture. But man, I found this very interesting that Larry posted that, and maybe kind of confirmed that maybe he's not a fan of Eddie anymore. I don't know what happened, if anything happened, or if there is any real beef, or if this is just promo for the fight. But anyway, it's cool to see something exciting going into this fight. I think this is some good promotion. I think the fight, I really do think it's going to be entertaining. I really do think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be pro boxing caliber, but I really do think I'm going to pay for the pay-per-view. I'm going to watch it. I really do think it's going to be worth watching. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be entertaining. I think the fact there's actual, real, deep-rooted bad blood between Thor and Eddie, I think it's going to be really fun to watch. And I don't know. I think the Larry Wheels things, it adds kind of an interesting dynamic to it as well. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think there's any real bad blood between Thor, or not between Thor, but between Larry and Eddie? And why is Larry so strongly Team Thor? I'm curious to know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section below. Smash the like button on this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. It helps out a lot in the algorithm. Get this video to 10,000 likes at least, and it'll get pushed in the algorithm a lot better. That always helps out a lot. So thank you, guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, Nick Strength and Power, signing out.